Hello everyone and welcome to our first Dungeons & Dragons online video. Now this game, I've spent so many hours in. I'm actually nearing 10,000 hours spent in on Steam. I truly love this game. I can't find another game like it online, and I thought I'd like to share this with you. Alright, so we're going to actually start with, this is my main character here. We're just starting a new life. So he'll be starting right from level 1. So in it they have a lot of customization for class. So you get to pick, a style. So you can go melee, spell, specialist, or iconic. Now iconics are a little different. They actually start you off right at level 15. And they are class-specific ones. So, like this Blade Forged, it starts off as the Blade Forged as a paladin. The Morning Lord is a Sun Elf cleric. Now, you can't really change that on their first life without use of store-bought items and stuff like that. Now, I also want to point out that a lot of these, when you first start playing, are going to be locked out. Like so many free-to-play MMOs, they do have specific things that they do lock until you get a little bit further in or purchase your way through. For this, I'm going to be playing my main build, which is my Artifice. Now, I've been playing these guys for quite some time, and I've gotten fairly good at building them. Now I do have a lot of goodies, but we're going to also go through my build as we're leveling up. And at some point, once we hit level 30, which is the maximum level, I'll do a deep dive into my build itself. That way, for those looking at knowing what my build is and how it works, there'll be a big in-depth one there. Now for race, I always go with my drow. Maybe not the horseshoe, but, And reason being is the drow elves, unlike every other class, which normally when you're creating a character you start with a 28 points to spend in your stats. The drow innately get 32 points. So they get a little bit more. And if you're looking here, they get higher dex and intelligence and charisma. So they get bonuses to 3 of these, but they do get lower constitution, which is your hit points. Most classes, they start with a one good one, 1 bad one. Again, some, like the ASMR, it just has a higher wisdom. So we're going to go again with our drow. Male. Now for my starting stats, this is always the same every time I play these guys. I leave my strength down. Like I have bonuses that increase these. So various tomes that I've picked up throughout the playthroughs, which gives me permanent bonuses to these. So I can actually start with a 8 strength. This, mostly for this build, that's just our carry weight. Now I do need 14 dexterity. This will allow us to get up some of the specific feats required for this build. Again, I need a total of, I believe, 17 to get the feats that I need. But again, with those tomes, that also increases there. Now, the big important one here is my intelligence. And for this specific build, this is everything to you. This is your chance to hit, your bonus damage, your trapping abilities, which the Artifice can do, as well as how many spell points you have and how hard these spells are to resist. So it really is your core ability. Now the other thing I'm doing here is I'm going to raise my wisdom up to 10 just to give it a neutral ability modifier. And the last of it, I'm going to put the rest into Constitution. Now, here, I wish I could raise that up a little bit, but as you can see, it costs a little bit more points. So unfortunately, 14 con is the best. I have found that if I drop that down, I can raise the Constitution, but I'd rather have the bonus into the Intel rather than the little extra points to hit, or hit points. Skills. Now, this is a big one, and as you can see, we get a whole lot of lists. Now, there are some very important ones. Of course, disable device, open lock, search, and spot. Now, a lot of people don't agree with this choice in spot, because with traps and hidden doors and such like that, if you know exactly where they are, you can just search them regardless of being able to spot them. However, it does come in handy in seeing hidden enemies, as well as any new content that you're not familiar with. It is nice to know, to get that little pop-up message to let you know that there are traps there. Other ones that I'm going to be picking up here as well is our repair, which is later on going to be our healing ability. Use magic device. This lets us use scrolls and scrolls that are not normally usable by an R device. So this will be things like heal or resurrection. It's a great way that you can become very party orientated. Now we have 12 points left. The last ones that I like to pick up, and these are a personal preference, these are not required, are the speech craft skills, which are bluff, diplomacy, and intimidate. Now the reason I like to pick these ones up specifically is there are various speech options throughout the game that can sometimes earn you a little extra experience. So having those couple of points into there definitely helps that. As for a feat, I always pick up first and foremost on any range type character, which the artifice, my artifice, I build it as a range type, is the point blank shot. Just gives you a little bit more damage when they're close to you, so that's always a bonus. As for spells, now artifice and a few other classes such as wizards have the ability to inscribe scrolls, meaning you can learn every spell available for your class and you just have it in a big spell book. Now, that being said, there are some specific spells that are not available in the game to purchase. You have to loot them. Now, those ones are always great to take. There's also one specific one, which is Conjure Bolts. Now, if you inscribe the scroll into your spell book, it never gets a bonus. So if you read the description, at level 1, they're +1. At level 4, and every 4 levels after, it increases by 1. So at level 4th level, it would be +2. At 8, it's +3. So on and so forth, all the way up to, I believe, +6. Now, the downside here is, if you inscribe this, rather than learn it at level up, it only ever goes to +1. So I highly recommend always grabbing that one from the spell book here, rather than inscribing the scroll. Now, a little bit there as well, you can actually also go and inscribe it on top of learning it this way. It does get very confusing because then you have two of the same spell in the inscription. But other than that, I mean, it is your choice. Now, as you'll see, I picked a few other spells. I like to pick up Master's Touch specifically for this intro quest. It lets us use any weapon without any penalties. as well as I also grabbed repair light damage. Now, the repair lights, as well as the inflict lights, they're unique as they auto grant them to you regardless. So you doesn't actually use a spell slot. It'll show it in your spell book, and it'll look like it's taking up a slot, and it will not let you remove it. What it's done is it actually gave you an extra spell slot just to hold that spell. And it'll do the same with the inflict light as well. So to give you 2 extra spell slots, 1 for each, on top of the, I believe it is 3 that it innately gives you as well. So here's the overview. It kind of just goes over what your starting stuff is. And then you get to pick your look. Now, as you can see, the name is already hard chosen. It won't let me pick. That's just because of the way it started. As for alignment, I always go with lawful neutral. Again, there are some speech-based things that does require you to be lawful, which this will allow us to bypass. And there is some gear that is evil aligned, and if we chose a good base alignment, so lawful good, neutral good, or even chaotic good, it'll actually give us like a negative level while these items are equipped. So I just find the easiest and most useful for this build is to go lawful neutral. Now for the look, they do have several various looks. Valagar, this character here, has always had a specific one, which I'm going to be going with here. Kind of done it so many times I know which ones to pick. And you get to redo this every time that you, basically it's called TR. So you get to redo that every time that you restart like this. Alright, so that is the classic look of Valagar here. So let's step into the world. So it does take a little bit longer to load in. The first time you do it, it's not so bad. So here's the main character creation and selection screen. Now it shows you all the different characters that you have. Enter creating a new one, as well as game options and so on and so forth. So we're just going to jump right into and go into the intro quest. Now, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of stuff. And
you find yourself waking on a shore of flotsam. Memories of a large white dragon striking your ship come flooding back.
Ah, you're awake. Oi, you ain't undead, are you?
Alright, so one thing that is kind of annoying is every time you TR, I'm just going to run over here first.
Can you move?
Here.
Follow me.
Oh yeah, that's right. So, one thing that's kind of annoying here is, when you first create a brand new character, your character isn't basically naked here. It does have some minor gear, some rags, and some other stuff. But whenever you TR, it completely empties out your entire inventory. And all that, like this. It also messes up where you move these bars. So you can, using Control Plus, again, if you change these key bindings, that's different. You can go ahead and move them to where you're wanting. Enlarge them, move them around, so on and so forth. Now there is a special command code that you can use to save and load these preferences. And this is /UI layout. And then if you're saving the layout, so say this is how I wanted it to look, you would type save, whatever you want to call it. And then whenever you're wanting to load it, it's load, and then you use that name. So that's how I have mine set up here. And as you can see, we have a whole lot. I've gone through and added a lot of these in. You'll notice if you're just making a brand new character that it does not look like this. So, as you can see, it's added in a whole bunch of my items. It's transferred over several items to my TR cache. I have a whole lot of things that it's adding in extra. So what we're going to do now, when you first create a character, you are forced to go through this tutorial island, which I'm also going to do. If, however, you choose not to, that little guy, while he's on the beach, as you can hear, he's yelling at us over there to come up. If you talk to him, you can actually choose to skip this intro quest. Again, I never choose to skip it. There is one particular reason, which I'll get into once we get a little bit further in.
Here we are. So you want a weapon or not?
Alright, so he's going through and asking us, like, basically letting us know. So, as you can see, "Oi, were you on that ship that got attacked by the dragon? You're the first survivor we've seen, and sailors have been washing up for hours." And then this is where, in this case, it doesn't give you any choices for conversation. Conversation in this game is, in my honest opinion, somewhat lacking. It doesn't always give you choices, and ultimately your choices really don't make a difference. So feel free to pick which option you'd like. In some cases, though, it does make a little bit of a difference whether or not it's giving you the optional or, so on and so forth. So, are you looking for survivors or looting bodies? Now, don't go blaming a poor bloke for trying to make a living. Besides, I didn't take anything from you. You got nothing worth taking. And, yeah, I seem to not have anything.
If what the halfling said was true, no one but you made it to the island alive. It may be worth following this rogue. For now.
So, as you can also see, they do a little bit of DM narration, which I might be turning down, because it's a little overpowering. So, alright, I've got one for you, but in return for a favor. Deal? Well, that depends on what you want. And then, so, yeah, I'll take that as a yes. So you get to pick a weapon. Now, this is where...
Go ahead, give it a few swings.
This is where having those specific spells, Master's Touch, comes in handy. Now, for this intro quest, it really doesn't make too big of a deal which weapon you pick. Generally speaking, actually, you cannot die. They actually cast a specific thing on you, making it impossible. Alright.
As you take hold of the weapon, feeling its balance, you can't help but notice this Jeets has more he wants to say.
I'm going to turn that down just a little bit for us. So there's our weapon. As you can see here, it does come up. You're not proficient with your weapon. Well, that's what that Master's Touch spell is good for. It removes that non-proficiency. Alright, so basically what he's wanting us here is to head up
Tell her to keep her knickers on.
and talk.
Selimus is in the grotto. I shall show you the way.
So I'm not actually going to go through a lot of the dialogue options. Some of the good ones I'll stop to show, but for the most part, like I said, the dialogue options in this game, it
Go inside and speak with Selimus.
It doesn't have any
I'll wait here
consequence.
for Jeets.
Alright, so the grotto here, this is the very first quest in the game. It's kind of a very tutorial quest. Your first time playing, it does require you to play.
Is this the cleric you were sent to find?
However, in this case, I'll go over to this one here. in this case, once
Who in
you've done
Kyber
it,
are you?
once you've done through the quest there, you can again skip it. So here it gives you a little bit of choice. I'm the artifice Valagar. Dragon attacked my ship, and I alone survived. I met your companions who asked me to protect you until they arrive. Or I'm Valagar. I woke up on a beach to a rogue who most likely took my positions. Then he extended my promise to be your lackey. I apologize. He's a good heart, even he doesn't always show it. And basically, to long thing short.
First, I shall surround us with a protection spell.
Her spell temporarily prevents you from dying, though you can still suffer injuries.
So she gives you a
This
very
effect
unique
will wear
spell.
off when you leave these caves.
Now, let's be about it.
Only available in this quest. Again, it's to prevent you from dying. So, protection from
gate.
death,
There must be a way to open
it makes you,
Try up that ladder.
well, immune to death.
I'll remain here.
You
when
hear the
Jason and
shuffling
Sawagan trying to
and
sneak out.
wheezing of some creature coming from the corridor ahead.
Alright, so the main reason I do this one here is this creature right here. Now, you find a lot of Swahagan themselves.
The corroded lever at the rear of this corridor most likely controls the gate where the cleric, Selimus, is waiting.
So, though you find a lot of these aging a lot of Swahagan, for those who are VIP or have purchased the monster manuals, most humanoids, Swahagan, this is the only place in the game where you can actually find the aging Swahagan. Now, as you can see, I've killed several of them. You get to kill one per time, and that's it. So, I've
Good job, but no time
been
to die.
around a while. So, a lot of the
Selimus
dungeons,
isn't too honked at me. Thanks for putting in the good word.
a lot of the dungeons
Don't you worry,
themselves, they are
Selimus. I'm here
fairly
to watch you
linear.
behind now.
The evil aura is oppressive.
Like, as you can
Sawagan are
see, it
behind
does-
this door. I'll take point. Talbron, cover me with your spells. Jeets, kill anything that tries to flank us. You, open the door.
Alright, so as you can see, it is a fairly straight shot, and most quests are straight shots.
Charge! What, it's empty?
Oi, where's the bloody Sawagan?
Look, the door closed behind us.
It would be logical to assume.
Now, another thing I want to point out here is... Okay. Now the main volume.
There are more of them up there. Stay alert.
Another thing I want to point out
Purge
is,
the wicked!
as you can hear with the voice acted characters, unfortunately that was not something that they kept up. It would have been
Sawagan
amazing,
wretches, are you scared of me? Come down and fight.
but most times, as you can see, the text appearing above their head,
The righteous smite you!
usually that's all that happens. Another thing you'll notice, if you're watching my stream and you've played the game, the colors above their heads are a different
Such is
color.
the fate of evil.
This is again
Now,
some of the
let's find a way out of here.
customizational options that you can do. I found the initial color
Can't pick this.
just
Anyone see a key?
Curious.
didn't work
I just
for me.
stepped on something.
So I had gone through
I've
and
grabbed
I
you down
Silver
there.
key.
Who's up for a swim?
Time to swim for the surface.
changed a lot of the
Hydrophobia
key
mean anything
bindings
to you?
and some of the colorings and stuff like that to make it easier for myself.
I'm weary. Let's take a moment to rest.
Alright, so
Ha! I still got plenty of stamina. I can go all night long.
Why don't
So-
you scout ahead then? Just don't get yourself in trouble.
Now you're talking. I'll take a little peek.
Alright, so here you'll notice two shrines. These happen a lot in quests. You'll also see them on your mini-map as well as your main map. Now, these shrines, you have a rest shrine which will if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, it's where you can take that 8-hour nap, quote unquote, to restore your spells or a little bit of hit points. They also have a resurrection shrine, so if you die, you're able to run. If you can click on it, it'll bring you back to life. Or if you're in a party, they can bring you to the quest, or bring you to the shrine, and then you can click on it that way. So this one here, it shows us our traps. Now, we as an artifice are able to get traps. However, I always let him disable it and just tell him it's my forte. I mean, you can go through and get some practice searching and disabling the trap, but for the sake of speed, I always just let him do it.
You two having fun? It's time for us to go. The High Priestess should be up ahead. The onus for much suffering rests squarely upon her slimy,
so if you notice, I do
there
hit
she
this
is,
button a lot to bring up the experience
some
sheet.
kind of profane blood magic.
Its base key
I
is
will open the door.
X,
Prepare yourself.
and what this does is it just shows
Go.
how many quests that you've done and where you're getting the experience from. So at the top it shows you the base amount. It shows you first time completing it, we get plus 20%. I have a Tome of Learning, which gives me an additional 50% on the first time I complete it. Re-entries, we have it left and come back in the quest, so that's an extra 10%. And we never died, so that's an extra 10%. Now there are also ones for Breakable Smash, Secret Doors Found, and Traps Disabled. So depending on what percentage you get of the quests, traps, I wish it was like a hard percentage, such as 50% gives you bonus 1, 75 is 2, so on and so forth.
You boys look
Unfortunately, it's like more like a set number. So for this quest, you need to get 40 breakables and 3 traps to get the full bonus, and so on and so forth. Alright, so another thing you're going to notice is I don't actually pick up a lot of loot. I do leave a lot in the chest, and that is because I've gone through and already collected a lot of this gear.
Try searching around.
You feel a stiff draft from
So
somewhere
this
in
is
this
that
room.
spot
Perhaps
hidden,
the
so
hidden passage to the village is
as
in
you
here.
approach, it prompts you, letting you know that, hey, there's something hidden here. Now, if you don't have that spot ability, you actually don't get those notifications.
Go on, open it then.
In
Brilliant.
this quest
Hardy lasses and pints up the
specifically,
wazoo. Here I come.
I love that
We're
little
almost
character.
done here. The way out is up ahead.
In this quest specifically,
first, I want
and
to
in
reward
some
you
of the
for
other
your assistance.
tutorial quests,
Please come speak with me.
it does have lower spot abilities, because again, they want you to be able to do it regardless of your class and whether or not you put points into it, just to kind of show you how that works. Now, at the end of your quest, you do get a quest reward, which you do get to pick. So again, it does point up any one item, you only get to pick one. So we're gonna take the light crossbow. And that's it. So, you now click to enter into the village.
Stepping out of the grotto, you find yourself in Korthos village. The Sahuagin have threatened this place for generations. Judging from how it looks now, the Sahuagin are winning. However, some hopeful souls still hold out for help to arrive.
Alright. Well, that was the introductory quest. Now I'm going to go over a few more things here before we get going. So if you'll notice here, it is currently snowing, and now this game, it really doesn't have a very linear storyline. It's kind of a whole bunch of tiny little storylines. You do sometimes run into, Jeets, Selimas, and Talbran later on in other quests, as well as they do have a few other reoccurring characters. But for the most part, each quest is its own standalone. They come in quest packs. So this one specifically, this the tutorial island, Korthos Island. It has its own quest line.
Charging battery.
They have others later on, which has their own stuff as well. So it's really, really interesting, but not very story orientated. Now you'll notice these guys that have cups above their head. So the cup with a check mark, that means you've completed that quest. So you can talk to him. Welcome to Korthos has been completed. Now he gives you some stuff. Now he talks about soul binding your character. Now what this is when you die, it allows you to recall out of the quest. Like say everybody in the dungeon dies, you get a total party wipe like that. Sometimes you have to release, and this will basically bring your soul back to whatever, generally tavern, that you've bound your soul at. So, me personally, I never bind it in the taverns. We have another area. So the next thing it points out is, as you can see, it's pointing out this cup here. So the golden cups, those represent quests that you have not yet picked up. Blue ones are ones that you've completed, and as you'll see once I pick this one up here, gray ones are ones that you currently have but have not yet completed. You also have a few that are just an outline. It means these quests are just not yet available to you. So, what I am going to do, because I do this every time, is just to prepare. So as you'll notice, I have a whole lot of empty bars. That is because, as we level up, we have more abilities and more things that we put into them. But I just generally leave them there rather than replace them every time. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to go through and we're going to skip the Korthos storyline. Don't worry, we are coming back. And what this will do is this just allows us to go and get some of our extras. So if you're in a guild, or happen to have a friend who's in a guild, once you leave Korthos, you can actually go and pick up guild buffs. As well, if you have any items in a bank or anything like that, this is your time to equip them. Oh, sorry about that. I seem to be losing my voice a little bit. So as you can see, the world, it gets a little bit bigger when we're not in the Korthos Island. And going through. So you'll notice our trainers, which again we'll get into. So it's really not a lot to worry about just yet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave the video off here. We did that starting quest. We are going to go back and completely finish off Korthos before I overload you guys and bring you here. Some things to expect in this playthrough is I'm actually going to be hitting every quest in the game. So here's a list of some of the quests. This is only showing quests up to level 4, because these are the ones that at level 1 that we're able to enter and complete. So this goes all the way up to 30, so you can imagine just the sheer amount of quests in this game. They also have various wilderness slayers and some challenges to complete. Now some of these I'm not very good at. We will kind of go over them. I probably won't go into every single one of them, but I will show you what they're about, and kind of give you some tips on how to complete some of them, and go over those rewards as well. I'll also go over the patron rewards, again, as the progresses. So some things to look forward through is just, walkthrough guides on all these various quests, little tips and tricks that I've found throughout playing, as well as just my build itself, and then just general commentary from myself here as we're going through it all. So I hope you guys enjoy. If there's anything you guys specifically want to watch, make sure to just leave a description of the video there, and I'll do everything I can to accommodate you guys. The other thing that I will be doing is, again, I will be doing all the quests, but we'll be doing them at level. Some of them I will require additional help and support for, so if this is something you guys are wanting to, you might even be able to join us for some of this. As well, I do have, other players and friends that I'll be dragging along, so you get to meet some of the crew and go through that. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoy this series, and I know I'm going to enjoy recording it, and yeah, I will catch you guys later. Have a good one all.